Hello and welcome to another video in my Web API.NET Basics tutorial series. As always, go ahead and follow me on GitHub. Now visit my website, and obviously, if you have any questions, you can email me. Right then. So now in the previous video, two videos, I showed you what happens and how does it look when you use the default and standard Web API template and the Razor MVC web app template. I showed you around in Visual Studio. We just did a build. We saw what's already available, some explanation and things like that. So right then, now the ultimate goal of all this tutorial series is to build two projects. I keep showing it in every video. I'm going to show it here as well. So two projects would be, I have the project here on my GitHub account. Right. Right. Okay, go to my profile, and here it is. So there is the comic book shop project. Okay, and I have the Blobber project. Now both of them cover some of the same common things, but the Blobber project is more about consuming Azure cloud services, whereas the comic book project is more about a full stack .NET project. Both of them are full stack, but this one is more about teaching you project development. Well, this is more about integrating it with cloud services and consuming external services and things like that. So I chose this because you can't do development without consuming cloud services, and at the same time you also should know how to build your standard projects as well. So there are multiple things happening here. So whatever I teach in this tutorial series, it will eventually converge in what we have here. So whenever I make these videos, I will go ahead and using these things as an example. And I also promised in one of my earlier videos that I will be showcasing what is called as a work diary. So if I go here to my projects and I put this as public, there is something called Web API.NET Basics. So I also have what is called as a learning diary. And I promise that in my videos, I'm going to show how to use this learning diary as well. So now what are we doing next then? So I have a couple of ideas really. So one of those ideas is, there is this API. Okay, now we'll be consuming APIs and we'll be building APIs. So that is what will be happening in this tutorial series. So I figured, let's go ahead and show you, I'm going to give you a scenario which happens, in the developer life all the time. So whenever we get a project, okay, what happens is either we are building our, we'll always be building endpoints, our own endpoints, but whatever endpoints we are building will at some point consume another endpoint. So it's a very common scenario. So let me just bring up my Paint software here. So what happens is, so you usually have your web app. So, like for example, we are also building web apps. I'm using Razor web app. So we're going to stick to that, Razor web app. And then this web app will connect with the API that we are developing. This is something we are doing. Like for example, the Blobber API has multiple APIs. The comic book shop project has many. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 APIs, and the Blobber project has one big API with many different endpoints. So really, that's all we do in software development. But at the same time, these internally, the APIs, so this is being developed by me, by us, by you and me, we are the developers. And then this API will in turn connect with some other API, like API 1, and this will connect with API 2. So it goes on forever. So eventually a full stack app like this would have a web app. We are using Razor pages, but normally, in a job scenario, you are probably using AngularJS or React.js or Vue.js or some JS library. But I'm not a UI guy, so I use Razor, because I need to build some UI and I'm comfortable with Razor. It is simple enough. So this is what you'll be doing. So which means these are all the things I need to teach you. That is what my plan is with this tutorial series. So I figured, right away, let me go ahead and show you this part here, the integration part, the consuming of another API part. And for this purpose, what I am going to do is, let me bring up my browser here. And I am using I'm using a public API called NASA APOD. Now the NASA APOD, let's go ahead and find that. So I'm going to say NASA APOD. There we go. It's called NASA. It's from NASA, you know, the space agency, and they have this facility, an API facility. It's called Astronomy Picture of the Day. I am a huge fan of this service. I use this in all my classes, and I've gotten nothing but great feedback. I mean, I've been using this for like years now. I think 4 to 5 years now, and I've had excellent results with my students. I use it in my front-end development classes. Although I'm weak in front-end development, I know some basics, and you have no idea how much difficult it is even to learn the basics. So I do teach in pure front-end development, and obviously I do back-end development, and I do use this a lot. So it's one of my favorite APIs. Okay, so what does this really do? Really, so what happens is if you go to the NASA APOD API, right, there is an API link somewhere in the bottom. Hold on, about APOD. There we go. Okay, there you go. Main API website. Oh, not this. Okay. You know, I'm not getting the APOD API page. Hold on, let me just search for it. Okay. Okay, there you go. NASA Open API. So this is the page where they show the picture, and this is the page where you get the API. So this is an API. I already did a couple of videos in this series about API thing. Now you need to go ahead and fill up this form and get your own key and all that. So you please do that. Now what we are really interested is in this API. So there are many API endpoints available from NASA. They all give all kind of information. Now my purpose in this video and a number of videos which come, like I look at my notes right now, and I see that I have idea to make at least 4 videos using this NASA APOD API. I want to build a console app. I want to consume that into an API. I want to consume this directly via web API, web app, and then I want to consume this via the API, via the web app. So I have 4 videos planned for this. So 4 things we are going to try and build. So let's go ahead and try that then. So I already have my NASA API key. If I go to my Postman account here, I hope you already have Postman working on your machine. And I'm going to go ahead and where is this? So there you go, NASA APOD API. And you can see here that I've tried to use different endpoints. I already mentioned that NASA has so many APIs, which means if you're really feeling crazy, you could go ahead and start consuming all of these things. It's going to be fun. So you could take that as a homework or something. And if you actually do it, send me an email with the code. I would like to see it, or maybe deploy it and show me the final results. So coming back, so let's go ahead and do it here. I have the NASA API. I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and it should work. Yeah. Oh, API key missing. Oh, hold on. Let's go ahead and second. Let me just get it. Project WT NASA API API. There it is. Okay, let's get the key. Come back. To delete and scratchpad, and I'm going to say okay. API key. Go to edit. Go to variables. NASA API key. Save. Come back, send. Still missing? Come on. Really? I just entered it. Current value. Oh, I gotta put it on both. I forgot. Okay, and send, and voila. Okay, so I have tested the Postman and it works. So remember to go ahead and do this on your own machine as well. I already explained how to use Postman, but I guess I'll just do it one more time just for you. So let's try to do that. I'm going to create a workspace, and I'm going to call this one, what is that? Where is that? This one. Yeah, it's called, Web API.NET Basics. So I'm going to call this workspace. I'll create a workspace called blank workspace. Okay. Next, name. Okay. Personal. Okay. Only me. And then create. And it's created. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to share this collection on the, what do you say, if possible, if it grows really big, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'll just share the Postman collection. So let's go ahead and call this one. I'm going to call this NASA APOD. I like to keep things organized. So let's do that as well. So here I want to say get, and I'm going to say APOD main, the main one, and then I want to go here. Okay, and I want to get the endpoint. There it is. Hold on. Yeah, this is what I need. Copy and put this here. I need the key, so I'm going to wait, let me show you how I use my work diary. That's another thing I want to do. So let me go ahead. Now this is something I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to my computer here, and I'm going to go to desktop, and I will open my terminal, and I'm going to say git clone, and I'm going to get my work diary, and this is shared on the GitHub, so I'll put the link in the description, and I'll go here, I'll open, and I will go ahead and put this here. So there we go. I trust the authors. That's great. And I have my learning diary. So today what I'm doing is I'm going ahead. So today the date is September 26th, 2024. So what are we doing today? We are trying to build a console app using the NASA Open API. So I'm going to take this link here, and I'm going to put this in my diary. I'm just going to make a note, building a console app using NASA Go. Since that's what I'm trying to do. Here I'm going to leave a note. Please get your own API key. So this is the story. And here, what is the URL that I need? I need this one. So I'll put this as well. So this is what I said about the working diary. So whenever I'm working, I always try to go ahead and put the working diary. Okay, so whatever I do, whatever I think I might need it in the future. So I have this now. I have the key. I won't put the key in the diary, of course. I'm going to leave that here in my personal diary, not the one which I'll be sharing with the students. So let's go back here, and I'm going to save this. I'll go back to my projects, and I'm going to say I'm going to copy the key, workspaces. Hey, I don't see my workspace. I don't understand. It was there like a second ago. Right. 3 minutes ago, there it is. Okay. I don't know why it was invisible. So odd. Okay, so and then I want to put the key here and save and send it. It's doing something. It's doing something. Why is it slow? Did my internet stop? Internet is fine. What's going on? Sometimes it does happen, I don't understand why it would not work. It is working. Even console, something is not right. API key is equal to. Oh, why is that? It is working here, but why is it not working here? I don't understand. Unspotty. Yeah, it worked a second ago. It's the exact same thing. Not sure why it would stop working suddenly. Copy this. Just check it here. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I am making these videos raw so that if something goes wrong, you know that something went wrong. So what am I making a mistake here? Let me just duplicate this. And I'm going to put this. It's the same thing. Why would it not work? I don't get it. Not working in Postman, but it is working in the browser. Yeah, it's working here, but it's not working in Postman. Very unusual. Let me go ahead and quit Postman and start it again. So let's do that. This is what I'm talking about. When you're developing, you'll face these kind of issues. Like, the endpoint is fine, the key is fine, but for some reason the Postman is not making the request. When this happens, it always is unusual. Like, why would something stop working? Sending the request. Doesn't want to work. And if I check the console, No, still not working. I don't know why. It says it won't work. Timed out. But if I come back to the browser, I see that it is working. Why wouldn't it work here? We try saving again. Get is fine. Headers are fine. Looks okay, except that's fine. That's fine. Everything looks good. There's no need for authorization. Oh, it is working now. I don't know why it wasn't working. Okay, I'm just happy it is working. Okay, so there you go. So we have this response now. So we know the endpoint is working. So before you go ahead and consume an endpoint, the first thing you want to do is make sure your endpoint is working. So you get the data and stuff like that. The next thing what I want to do is I want to go ahead and first consume this. So I made a plan here. So the first step is to go ahead and build a console app for this. So I will go back to my Visual Studio. So I'm going to go ahead, and so our first task is to consume this API in a console project. So I'm going to create a new project. Okay, the code will be there on the public repository along with the diary and everything. So console app, click next. And I want to say this is going to go into my desktop, web API basics. I'll create a folder called NASA APOD, because that's what this project is about. And here I'm going to say select folder, and I'm going to say again NASA APOD console project, because that's what this is. So I'm going to click ahead. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and copy that project name, and here I'm going to put it in my diary again. So I'm going to say project. So again, work diary, very important to maintain your work diary. And you'll see that already created folder here. We'll update that with README file in a second. So I'm going to create this, and .NET 8, of course, and we will create. Okay, so I have the .NET project here. Now, before I continue, as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of documentation. So what I'll do here is I'll go to my README file, and here I'm going to say, okay, and I'm going to say, just going to update this, and I'm going to say NASA APOD. So square brackets, curly braces, and I want to go ahead and where is my folder? Here we go, and take this folder and come back and do this. Okay, I want to just make a note. Projects built in order to consume the NASA API service, right? And then here again, inside, I want to create a README file. Very important. So I am going to say readme.md. Where did that go? Yeah, it's supposed to go on the outside. So again, here I'm going to just put a title, NASA APOD, and projects. Again, I'm going to just put the same thing, that consume NASA APOD, right? And I want to put a section called references. Very, very important, because I want to put the references of where I'm getting all this. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to take this link, and I'm going to put this as a reference. Okay, and of course I'm going to put my signature here, and I'm going to say this one is here. I think this diary is misplaced. Let's push this to here. Right, I want this diary to actually be in the a little bit down here. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, there we go. That's much better. So this is what we are doing here. Okay, that looks good. So right then, now I have this page as well, and here this project. So here I'm going to say another, again with the square brackets, I'm going to say projects. Again, I'm going to say this one, and I am going to say this one. So, and what does this do? Why do all this documentation? As I mentioned, I'm a big fan of documentation. So whatever you do, you should consider documenting things and see where that takes you. So I have the console project, everything. Now, the next step is, so we know we want to consume, we already know that this API can be consumed with Postman, right? We were able to see this in Postman. For some reason it is not working a few seconds ago, but it is working again. So we are all good here. So the next step is, how do we consume something in .NET? That is the next question. Now, there are many ways to do this. But luckily for me, the reason why I'm talking about this because we do use this code in one of our future projects. So for that, I'm going to take a quick journey here and I'm going to go to my GitHub and I'll go to my ForBlobber project. And in my ForBlobber project, if I go to my web API demo project and I go to my controllers, I have something called the translator controller. Now, if I scroll down here, something is happening with this one. I am using here, let me just zoom in a little bit, zoom, 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 okay, and scroll down. You'll see that I'm using something called HTTP client. Now, there are several ways you can consume an endpoint in .NET. However, the current method of doing it is using a HTTP client. So this specific code is going to help me. Okay, so let's go ahead. This is my own code, so I hope it's okay if I copy my own code. So now, where did I get this though? I want to show that as well. So if I go to Azure, so if I say Azure Translator API quick start, I remember this one. So if I go here, okay, and if I scroll down a little bit, I can see this code is actually borrowed from this specific place. Now this part of project development is really, really important. Now there are some things in coding that as a developer you will always remember, but you don't remember everything. Well, maybe some people can remember, but I always have very weak memory. I constantly forget things. But yet I'm in the software industry where you have to remember a lot of things. But I've been doing this for 15 plus years now. So because I can't remember things, I remember how to find things. Okay, so I know this is what I need. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So what I'm going to do is I have my example code here. I already tested it. I know it works. And I have the original code here. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take these two links and I'll put this in my references section here. Now, I hope you understand why I am kind of building this, so I'm going to put another readme.md here. And then here I'm going to say NASA APOD console project. And then here again, I'm going to say references. Very, very important. So I'm going to put this as a reference. And I'm going to put my own code also as a reference because this is something which is really going to help me, right? So you have that. So we know that we have the example code here. It is from Microsoft, so it must be good. So we can use this now. So what I'll do here is let me zoom back in to the original size and I'll come back here. So what is going on here? The first thing is I have something called as. Now you see the main part is the body. Okay, now we are not doing post. We are just doing a simple get. So I don't think we have to worry about that. We'll do the post thing later. So what do I need then? So in order to do this, I need this entire client stuff. So I don't want to copy paste, then I'm going to go ahead and try to type it, right? So what I'll do is I'll put my Visual Studio on one side and I'll put this on the other side so I can look at it. And here, let me go ahead and type it out. Okay, so what I need here is I want to go ahead and get the HTTP client. So the first step is to get the HTTP client. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say using, okay, and then here, sorry, hold on. I'm going to say using, and then I'm going to say var client is equal to new HTTP client. So again, I don't have the AI subscription, but Visual Studio already has some kind of AI built into it. So I guess it is there. So again, I'm going to say using, and here I want to go ahead and say var request is equal to new HTTP request message. Okay, and I'm just going to go open and close the curly braces, and we have this much. So I'm going ahead and creating. Now, the using keyword is something that will take care of disposing of a HTTP connection once the work is done. Now, what is all this disposing and stuff like that? We'll worry about that in the future if it comes up. Okay, but for now, we'll just move on. Now, this request, you'll see here in Postman, I am doing a get request because we are getting information from the NASA endpoint. I'm not posting information. I'm not sending information. There are a lot of other things like put, patch, delete, head options. We're not doing those things. We are doing a very simple get operation, GET. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say request dot method is equal to, okay, HTTP method dot, there you go. Again, we have all the options: delete, patch, head, options, connect, everything. I am interested in get, so I'm going to say get. The next step is I need the request URI. So I am going to say request dot request URI is equal to, this is where I'm going to put my URI. So I'm going to come back to my Postman. I'll come here. This is my request URI. I'm just going to go ahead and put that here. Okay, so there you go. Now I can't just use a string though. It has to be a new URI object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new URI, and then I'm going to put this string inside the URI object. And now the red error went away. So far, so good. Now, what is the next thing I want to do? I want to go ahead and say content application type dot JSON. Now, I think that only matters when I'm trying to do like a post. So maybe I don't need to worry about the content. So I'm just going to say skipping the content part because I am not posting anything. Okay, so the next thing is about headers. So let's say headers, again, not required right now. I don't think we need it right now. Okay, and finally, I just need to make the call. So I'm going to say HTTP response message, HTTP response is equal to await client dot request. So we can see the same thing here. All it does is request dot configure await false. So I don't know what that is, but because it is here, I'm going to use that anyway. So I'm going to say dot configure await false. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what it does, but I'm just going to use it anyway. If we get an error, we'll worry about that later. The next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and get the string. So here I'm going to say string result is equal to await response, await HTTP response dot content dot read as string async. Okay, and then I just want to show this result in the, okay. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and put a breakpoint right here. I don't know if this will work. I mean, I know it has worked in the past. As I mentioned, these tutorials are recorded raw, which means if I make a mistake, I want that mistake to be there, even if it makes me look like a fool. Because if you're learning coding for the first time, I want you to know the things that can go wrong, even for an experienced developer such as myself. So let's go for it. So I'm going to go ahead and rebuild, let's see if we get any error or something. It succeeded, so far so good. I am going to go ahead and run this, and we get the breakpoint. Okay, so far so good. And I'm going to, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so continue. So you can see here that the request URI is updated, looking good. Request is looking good. Method get, everything looks good. Okay, and then I'm going to do the response thing. Oh, it's doing something. Okay, oh, status code 200. So far so good. Let's see. Okay, and I'm going to say result. Look at that. Yes. Okay, it is working. It does work. I'm really happy. Even though after all these years, I still get a feeling of joy when something works, even something as simple as this. So I'm going to click on continue, and you can see the output window. Yes, we are getting the same thing. Now look at this. So whatever you see here is the exact same thing you see here in Postman as well. So we are really just doing what Postman already did, but the difference is in Postman we are using a tool meant for API testing, but in this case we actually wrote the code which did the same thing that Postman did. So if you're able to get this, that means you are on the right track. So this was the first step I wanted to do. So I have it here on my notebook here. The first thing I want to show was I want to show you how to consume NASA API with the console app. But before we wrap up this video and move on to the next one, there are a couple of things I want to do. So in my code, now that I know the code works, we can make some quality of life improvements. I don't want to use a string directly I don't think that is a good idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top, and I am going to say var, and I'm going to say NASA APOD URL. I'll create a variable. Okay, always a good idea to do this. So I'm going to copy this string. not copy, cut it. I don't need this here anymore. I'll put this here as a variable. Always a good idea to do that. And then what I want to do is I want to use that here. Looks much better. Now another thing I want to do is here you'll notice in line number 16 the information is in a string. But what if I want it to be slightly more organized? Right? We could do that. Okay, so now here I just want to make sure what I'll do is I'll disable the breakpoints and I'm going to run this project just to make sure the output is working. Yeah, it is working. So that string works. So let's go back to my example project here. Let's go back to the for blobber project. And here I've done something. So you'll see here that I am taking this information and I'm doing some, let me just zoom in again. I'm doing something called JSON convert dot deserialized object. I'm doing something like this. Something like JSON convert dot deserialized object. So we're not going to get into deserialization and stuff like that right away. I mean, I may never even explain that. You can just figure it out on your own. But I do want to use that option. I don't want to just show this thing as a string. I want to show this as a object, a C# class object. So now what we'll do here is we'll go online and we'll search for a website called QuickType. I like this website. I'm going to put this in my, let's go ahead and try to do that. So here I'm going to go ahead and put this in the references in my work diary. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and take this JSON and convert that into a C# class. So I'll go back to my project. I'll run this one more time. And I get the string here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the string. You can either copy it here or you can turn on your breakpoints and you can, let me just run that again. And I'll go to result and I'm going to view and I'm going to copy this here. So you can choose whichever way you want to do it. So I'm going to come back to the QuickType site and here I am going to say copy. And there you go. So I have these things happening. So I want to give it a name. So I'm going to say NASA APOD response, right? And then here on the right side, I'm trying to using C#. So C# it is. So I have all this so much things coming. So this is fine. Now I just want the types. I want the types and attributes. Let's see. I want to use a list and I want to say namespace. Now what is my namespace? If I go to my project, I don't have that namespace right now. That's fine. I think it's okay. And I want to call this NASA APOD. There we go. And here I want to say complete. Okay, and then there it is. So they're giving us a lot of things. So we're not going to worry too much about what this is, but I'm just going to take it anyway. So I am going to say, I'm going to copy this code. Okay, and here I will go ahead and create a class. Okay, and this class, I'm just going to call it the same name as this one. The class is called NASA APOD. Let's go ahead and use this. Here, it doesn't have to be this complex, I guess, maybe I can just take types. I think I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to take this class as NASA APOD response. Yeah, I don't need the full set. If you want, you can use the full set, but let me try using this. And if it doesn't work, we'll worry about that later. So I'm going to go ahead and say NASA APOD response. And you'll see here that I'm going to go ahead and just take all this stuff. And I'll go to come back and I'm going to. So I'm going to make this public. That's cool. And I have all these things. Now there are some green lines here. Now if you don't like them, you can go ahead and put like a question mark, so, and the green lines will go away. So we'll do that, because I know, like, what is that question mark? I'll let you figure it out on your own. I might discuss that in the future, but for now, I'm just going to put a question mark here so that the green lines go away. I don't want any warnings if I can avoid it. Now what I want to do is I have the class now. So all I want to do is deserialize this. So I'm going to come back to my program.cs and I have the example code here. So if I go back to my project, I do have a line here which says JSON convert.deserialize object. So this is what they're doing. And in fact, if you go back here and if you use the complete option, you see something similar happening here as well. So let me just copy that line here. So I'm going to put this as an example here. Okay. So I have that now. So I do see this something called JSON convert. So we need a library for this. So we are going to go to our project, go to manage NuGet packages, and then I'm going to go ahead and browse, and I'm going to look for a package called Newtonsoft. So I'm going to search for, there it is. Yes. So I have this Newtonsoft, and I'm going to install it. We'll wait for it. I'll apply that project. And if I go to install, I can see here that it is installed on my project. In fact, right now it is the only package right now. So that is really okay. So here what I'm going to do is I am going to say var result. And I'm just going to call this result underscore object. Okay. And I'm going to say JSON. I'm not able to type this. Let me remove the breakpoint. Yeah, it's kind of blocking it. And here I'm going to say JSON convert dot deserialize object. And here, now here you have to mention the type. So what is the type called? The type is called NASA APOD response. So I'm going to say NASA APOD response. And then here I'm going to say result. Now, I think this will work. If I look at my example project here, that is all I'm doing. You see here, there are two example codes I'm looking at. So this is the main one, and this is the one that I'm using. So there we go. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint here once again. And I'm going to run this project. If I get an error, we'll figure it out. You know, that's the whole point of this video, is just to see what can go wrong and what goes right. So I'm going here, request URI, okay, response, result, okay, I have the string, looks good, and I'm going to click on next, and aha, see, we are getting it. We got the copyright, we got the date object, you know, everything looks really, really good, and then HT URL, I have the URL, and it's a proper class object. See, previously, the result was just a result, it was just a string. But now we have gone ahead and put that into an object. Now, why is this important? Right. So let's try to find out. So I'm going to go here, and if I click on continue, the output looks all garbled. But what if I want to make this output a little bit better, make it more readable? Right now, it just looks like a bunch of strings, which is what it is. But we can, now that we have it in an object, we can do some specific stuff. So I can do something like this. So I am going to remove this console.writeLine for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, displaying the results. And I'm going to say console.writeLine, and here I'm going to say, okay, what are the things we have here? So let's go back here. I have the copyright information, but I don't want to show the copyright information in the top. In fact, I don't want to show the copyright information at all. What I want is the title first. So here I'm going to say title. Okay, and then there we go. And now I'm going to say object. Result object, and I want to show the title. Yes. And I want to do like why is this maybe null here? Okay, I'm going to just put a question mark, I guess. Okay, next I want to show like a, you know, format it a little bit like a dash or something. So I'm going to say console.writeLine, and I'm going to say role, and then I just want to show like a description, and here I'm going to say console.writeLine description. Okay, and once again I'm going to say result underscore object dot description. Where is that description? Explanation. I think they call it explanation, but I like to call it description. See, another benefit of putting everything in an object, we can manipulate the output. What else do I want to show? I've shown the explanation and the title, and then date. I want to show the date of the image. So, and here, in fact, I can do something like this: title with date. I can do something like this, and here I can show plus, and I can show the date as well. I want a small space, so I'm gonna add that. There are many ways to build string. I'm just going with the easier one. Result underscore object dot date, Okay, and I can again use the toString function, so the date looks like a string. And once again, I want to put like a small dash after that. Okay, so what am I doing here? Now, before we were showing the entire thing, the whole output was on the screen and it was all jumbled together. It was like a one unbroken string. It was not looking very pretty. But now what I did was I was able to use the JSON convert package, facility, and I also used this quick type function facility, and I was able to convert that into a C# class object. And now I don't want to show the whole thing. I just want to show the title. I just want to show the date, and then I want to show an explanation. So let's see how this looks. So once again, I'm going to rebuild and run this. Now the breakpoint is activated. So continue, and there it is. Just a little bit better. I'm not saying it looks really great. I still have that hello world on the top, so maybe I should get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Don't need that anymore. And here I'm going to just put another dash dash dash. There we go. And let's try that one more time. And I'm going to remove the breakpoint. Just disable it. I don't want to remove it in case I need it back. So there you go. A little bit better. It says title with date, the great globular cluster in Hercules, and the date is there, and of course the description is coming, and then we have another dash dash dash, and it looks slightly better. Now let's just put the original output side by side. So I go back here and I remove this comment. Okay, and you can see here the original output is on the top, looking very garbled. Look at that, the top part is very, very garbled. It doesn't look pretty. But then our now new output, you have the nice title and you have a description. And I don't want to show the image URL. I don't want to show there are two URLs. I don't care about it right now, so I don't want to show it at all. So this is good, you go. So this is really what I wanted to show. So in this specific video, I want to show you how to go ahead and consume the NASA APOD console app, and I want to go ahead and show you how to use the HTTP library and simple. It's very simple stuff, but as you can see, there are still a lot of concepts, and if you're a first-time developer, hopefully this is something really, really new for you, right? So there you go. That's what this was. Now the next one, I want to see how you can take this code and put it inside an API. So we'll worry about that in the next tutorial, but yeah, that's the next one.